All right. Yes, so we are live. Greetings and welcome to this Breakwater Festival video. We have again another special meeting today, and this is round 3 of the video introductions of some of the festival ticket holders of Breakwater Festival, which we will organize from 27th to 29th of October this year in Mannheim, Germany. And yeah, it basically will be a festival conference of this little corner of the internet, you could say that. And yeah, I mean, I gave a lot of info already in the other videos, in the other 2 rounds with festival holders, so I won't go into more detail now. I mean, all of you know there will be Paul Vanderklay as a speaker. There will be Andrea with the banks, and Thomas Steininger and Aaron Van Os. And yeah, more infos you will find in the links below the video. And so we are basically just continuing these introductions, because it's just good to connect before the festival to get to know each other a little bit. And that way it's much easier to connect at the festival already. So yeah, I would say without further ado, we just go into the first round of introductions. And the questions are just a short introduction, like who are you? Where are you at? How did you find this place? And yeah, also what do you hope for the festival? And I would say let's just start with Klaus. Why don't you just start? Are you writing down the questions, right?
Yes, it's always helpful to just have something to go back to. I tend to sometimes like lose my train of thought or go like, channel change into different places wherever I talk myself into. So my name is Klaus. I'm a digital nomad. So currently I'm in Switzerland. But yeah, the place changes every other week or so. I'm 36. I am, that's basically the only label I still accept, really, digital nomad. I don't like, it's hard to just confine myself with labels. How did I find this place? I was very much into all the YouTube people that are known in this little corner of the internet. Jordan Peterson is how it started for me. I also followed Paul Vanderklay, but I never really got into the Discord stuff. And then one day I saw Matthias post in a Jordan Peterson German Facebook group about the festival. And that's how I got more. I mean, I'm still not that much into the Discord stuff, but I got more into that. And also, I was supposed to be at the festival last year, but then something happened on short notice. So I will be there this year. And the funny thing is, so I found this with Matthias posting in the Facebook group, and then we found out we're living in the same German little village close to Mannheim, and that was like an interesting synchronicity. What do I hope? Like hopes for the festival. I really like meeting people in real life. Like I have a lot of like little tribes, I call them, online these days, and actually I realized some of those I also met in real life now, and it's always nice to just, there's like 5 or 10 people that you come close with online, and then you see them all at this one place physically. It's strange and really nice to meet people from online, the real world. And it's almost like I don't have particular hopes. I just know that meeting in real life has like so many like benefits. And I'm looking forward to just meeting all of you. I mean, 2 of you I've already met in real life. Just meeting you in real life as well.
All right, thank you, Klaus. And you also did participate in our local estuary. I think 2 or 3 times, right? Just because you said you want to connect with people in real life, so how did you what was the experience for you there?
It's always hard to put into words exactly what is happening or what is different from online. I think there's just a sensory experience. Like looking at you now is different from sitting with you across a table. There's so many more things you pick up in the actual real world. Like right now, you could be I don't know. Oh, there's a helicopter coming. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like you pick up so many more things, and like it's so much easier to to form connections on a deeper level when you actually meet in person. There's so many additional things you pick up on, like on the sensory level. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Klaus. Yeah, Tobias, what about you? Who are you?
Hi.
Where are you located? How did you find this place?
Yeah, I'm Tobias. I'm 34 years old. I'm married. I live in Mannheim, like basically where Matthias lives, and I work in IT. So how did I get here? It all started with the depression, I think, or I guess it was what started my journey. A friend of mine recommended Jordan Peterson to me, and just a few videos. Okay, it helped him to get through his depression, and so I started with Peterson, and then yeah, I went down the rabbit hole, and then my roommate Georg invited me to the Discord, and I joined the local estuary group. This was like basically right after the last festival. So I just missed that. I hope this time I can come. My hopes for the festival. I think I'm part of the local Mannheim estuary group. Once every 4 weeks doesn't satisfy my need to talk about these things. I hope like the festival is going to be like a big weekend long estuary. Like I know it's not just estuary, but like the feeling should be close to that, I think. Yeah, I think or I hope, since there are a lot of people, that yeah, there will be like a lot of small groups discussing different subjects, and like I hope I can test my theories, like Peterson always says. And I hope I don't need to start from zero, like with almost every other person that I talk to about these things. Yeah, and I hope there will be a lot of networking, and this will lead to a few projects like podcasts or more local estuaries. And I hope I can gain a lot of knowledge and wisdom. So really looking forward to it.
Great. Thanks, Tobias. Yeah, Gustavs, what about you? Maybe you can introduce yourself, where you're located, and yeah, how did you find this place? What are your hopes for the festival?
Yeah. So hi, my name is Gustavs. That's and people get this confused a little bit. It's like Gustav with an S at the end. That's the Latvian nominative form of names. So John, for example, is Jānis in Latvian, and that's also my middle name. My surname is Mešcims, but nobody can pronounce that. So don't even try. Yeah, I'm Latvian. My family have been Latvian pretty much as far as since, well, basically back to Latvia in prehistory, which isn't that long ago, since the Middle Ages. And I'd say a fairly big thing in my history and where I am right now is definitely the sense of being like an immigrant or an outsider in some sense, because just before the Second World War, my part of my family were going to be purged, so sort of like Stalin's purges, but ethnic Latvian purges by the Russians. So part of my family emigrated to Australia, and my father was born there, in like a Latvian family, you know, of emigres to Australia. Then he moved to Latvia, and my mother's side of the family never really left Latvia. But when I was young, we moved to Australia, so I grew up there. Then we moved back to Latvia when I was 8 years old. Yeah, so I sort of had that childhood experience of being a little bit somewhere else and not really fitting in, and just being, you know, even small things like being good at English sets you apart sometimes. Yeah, so then I finished high school. I went to study in the UK, and I finished those studies last year. sort of got involved with all of this. I guess started watching Paul van der Klee about like 2 years ago, I think. I got there through Benjamin Boyce, actually, and Jordan B. Cooper. So not necessarily Peterson, but kind of adjacent a little bit.
Another Jordan.
Yes, exactly. And actually, all of these, I'd say TLC was fundamental in me moving back to Latvia, because I went to the UK and then it's sort of presumed that you'll stay there or you'll go to Germany or Switzerland or somewhere else, just the cosmopolitan kind of move thing. But I made a very deliberate move to come back to Latvia and got involved in a local church, and it's been a huge surprise, actually, like in a good way. Haven't really done anything outside the virtual world, but I guess this is a moment of that happening. So I'm really excited. Last year I couldn't come to the festival because I was moving back here and life was crazy and I didn't know anything. But I'm really hopeful. I haven't been involved in any estuaries or bridges of meaning, but I've just been, a lurker, a lone lurker. So I'm just excited to see what it'll bring, and everyone else is excited. So I'll just go along with it.
Wow, very, very interesting story. And Gustav's, like, did I get that correctly? You studied in the UK and then you moved to Latvia, back to Latvia. And
yes,
and
that's
this
correct.
little corner was one of the reasons why you moved back.
Oh, absolutely. It was like the number one reason.
Wow.
No question. Yeah, it's had a huge impact on my life. It's like I feel that when I was in the UK, I had a very rough time. I didn't like it there. So I really went through a lot of, I would say, not just crisis, but a lot of pain and the feeling of homesickness and stuff. And I feel like this look kind of gave me new life to kind of start again in a better and more deliberate way. Yeah.
Wow, very, very interesting. I mean, yeah, it's so interesting because I organized last year's festival and I kind of started the German sub community in the Bridges of Meaning Discord, and like from time to time you just see people popping in who kind of followed the community online, and then like these events, they give them like the drive to say, okay, now I also want to come there and see people and discuss with people. And it was when you popped up, it was the same feeling for me. It was like, wow, great, another guy here in Europe. And I think I mean, it's not a mainstream phenomenon, but it's still a big enough phenomenon that there are every other I don't know, month or so someone new pops in and joins the conversation. That's just so good to see. Yeah? Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Now you all did your introduction, and yeah, I don't know. Do you have any questions to one of the other people here from the introduction already? Something more that you want to know?
Gustav, you said that this thing was the reason that you moved back to Latvia. So what exactly what was the specific reason? For me, it is like since I discovered all of this, I'm becoming more of a family person. So I'm trying to connect more with my parents and be there for them. And is it maybe the same or?
Yeah, I would say it's something like that. But yeah, in a more expansive meaning. It's not just close family; it's also friends and community. And I still live close to where I went to school. I know my teachers there. I know, and Riga is it's not like a big city. I think the population is something like 500,000. But I just meet people that I know on the street regularly. And it gives that sort of not necessarily small town feel, but I'm much more integrated, and people know me and I know them. And what in the UK, I could definitely feel that individualism and disconnection from other people taking over my life and eroding those connections that I had. And coming back was really, really nice. It was like it was this process of I call it auto reassembly. That the connections kind of just work themselves out. You meet old people you haven't spoken to in 5 years, and it's sort of like a bit awkward at first, but over time I've found my place. Yeah, and also there's just Latvia is a weird place. There's lots of kind of traditional things here that other people just don't have anywhere else. So very much like Peugeot influenced in the sense that there's also tradition here that isn't appreciated, I think.
Appreciated by the people that live there or the outside world?
By people that live here, yeah. Like we have big St. John's Day celebrations, which is a huge thing. And there's really interesting stuff going on there.
Did you
I don't think
change your
anyone else
like?
does
Did
that
you
same
change
thing.
your mind about that? Like, how did you look at such traditional celebrations before this little corner, and how do you look at it now?
Well, I look at them as something a lot more meaningful and definitely symbolic in a way that's been forgotten. And I'm still trying to figure out, where in history it was lost and all that sort of thing. But I definitely view Latvia as, well, I'm a Christian myself. I'm a Lutheran. I grew up kind of Lutheran. But I feel like there's been a big, like a very big influence on the Latvian national identity is this like kind of nationalism and neo-romanticism that kind of frames all of our traditions as something traditions and national identity as stemming from pagan things and frames it as good Latvian pagans that were subjugated by bad German crusaders, which is sort of the story that has been told. And then Christianity was sort of forced on us. It's the neo-pagan narrative, sort of. And it has a lot of track here. But the thing is that our traditions, they're not really pagan, and Latvia hasn't been pagan for like 700 years. And the traditions are all like they're just St. Michael's Day, St. John's Day, Easter, Christmas. It's like can't take the pagan stuff seriously. So just trying to kind of figure it out on a Christian level. Yeah.
Wow, very interesting. I have a question for Klaus. Since Klaus, you like you're a digital nomad, but at the same time, I think you're kind of based in London, right? And
yeah, go on.
yeah, and you can answer to that. But like what Gustav described when he was in the UK, like this individualism and this disconnect. Like, what are your feelings about that? Have you experienced something similar or something different?
I've experienced something similar, and then also like I see it as good and bad at the same time. Like there's something really freeing in that as well for me. Like I love that kind of. So I lived in London for like 4 years overall. There's certainly something like a disconnect, but there's something in it that I really enjoyed as well, like a freedom of like, yeah, it's hard to describe, like, yeah. But I wrote down the word grounding as you were speaking, Gustavs, and like even only having attended, I think 3 or 4 estuaries, like local estuaries, there's something really grounding for me in that. And that's probably also as a digital nomad, it's like I feel like a citizen of the world. And there's something I've noticed like ungrounding in my constant travels. And like I've noticed something really grounding in attending the estuary meetups. And even if I haven't attended many, but every time I go, it's like, and I think it maps to something you talked about, like going back to where you come from in a way. Like, yeah, I'm like, I don't, it's probably a personality thing. I'm very skeptical about traditions and all that, but I think they can be very important, this kind of grounding aspect. Like it's like there's a slowing down and a going back to your roots, and yeah, I notice how I don't have that. And I also really enjoy that. Like, I didn't mind it much when I was living in London, but it's almost also like I didn't realize what I was missing out on in a way. Like, I think, yeah, everything is about balance really. And like, you can go too far in the like openness. I'm very high in openness in the big five, but then there's something there that you can get lost in, I think, in the openness. Like there's so many possibilities and so many things to do. And then like there's also the importance of like, yeah, this grounding aspect I just talked about.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What was the transition like? Because if you were in London for 4 years, you weren't a nomad back then. So what was the transition like to a nomadic way of life?
Yeah, it was very strange. It was almost like a calling that I couldn't really locate. Like there was just this. I've spent 4.5, 5 years in a corporate setting, and it was a startup when I started, but then it became this huge company, and I felt like I needed to leave. It was almost like I felt confined in a way. I didn't want to be confined to one place anymore, and it felt quite natural. I mean, I was like, it happened quite quickly. Like yeah, there was one program around personality I did, and that almost like as you were speaking, I got reminded like I did this one program, and that almost gave me permission to just go travel the world. So a bit like with what you described, just the other way around, like going back to your roots, and I feel like that's coming for me at some point, obviously, as I'm getting older. Um, yeah, did I answer the question? Like, yeah, the transition felt like natural, and I don't think I ever regretted it. Yeah, trying to think more of like the UK life. Like, yeah, I was pretty like I was living a very, I don't want to say lonely life, but alone. I didn't feel lonely, but like objectively, there wasn't many connections I had in the UK, apart from like maybe sports teams and work, of course. But I can totally see how like in this massive 12 million or whatever city, like it can be difficult if you don't find like these mini tribes to connect to. And yeah, that's more and more difficult these days with the like ongoing fragmentation, and like it can be more difficult to find people that you resonate with. Like, yeah, I noticed that. Like, I don't think I would feel belonging in a church setting, but I feel it here in the estuary context. So that's very interesting. And I don't know what that is exactly, but I guess it's like a finding, yeah, there's this phrase, finding the others. It feels like that's what's happening here. I don't know where it originates. I heard it from Peter Limberg at the Stoa. Like it's about finding the others, and the others are people who like have a similar X. I don't know what the X is. A similar outlook on life, a similar something is. There's a similar background or a similar openness to the world. I don't know what it is, but that's something that certainly can also be explored at the festival.
Somebody, I think it was CW. He did a Randos conversation with Paul Vanderklay some weeks ago, and he described like this little corner as like that you find here this genuine openness and a real diversity of perspectives, and not in the mainstream sense of diversity, but a real diversity of perspectives and people with a real openness and a willingness to listen and yeah, just to be open. And I think yeah, you rarely find this today at many places. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions for the others from what you've heard?
I think
I'm not sure what to ask really. Sorry.
Yeah, me neither. But I had a thought because everybody was talking about tradition and coming home roots. There's basically stability in like from the past or something, and like I was really into that climate crisis stuff before I discovered all of this, and I think that was the thing that was missing the most. Like the world begins with me, and there's nothing before that, and I need to figure out everything by myself. And then I discovered that that other people ask the same questions like forever, basically. What should I do with what should I do with my life? What is humanity? How can I lead a meaningful life? Basically that is to be found in tradition, I think, or in connection with other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gustav, about your story was also what you said with this emigration and being an outsider. I can relate to that. Like you were born in Latvia, and then your dad was born in Australia, moved back to Latvia, and then when you were born, your family moved to Australia for some years, and you got back again, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's correct. And my father moving here was actually quite difficult for him, because he moved here in 92, I think, or 91, which is when it was crazy, Latvia in 92. I mean, the fall of the Soviet Union, and it was bandits and stuff and gangsters and basically like domestic terrorists that people have somehow like memory hold. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
of course.
he actually so I've seen this sort of tale of emigration in like many generations and many ways, because my great grandfather with his family, they moved to Australia, and then how to be a Latvian in Australia while your own country is occupied, and it's no longer, and then once it's sort of become free again, then it's no longer what it was, because it really isn't. And then my father moving back here with probably rose-colored glasses, and coming to terms with that. And then it wasn't easy for him here. He died when I was quite young, so many of those things have been sort of, well, I wasn't that young, I was 10 years old, so we moved back to Latvia, and then he died. But so I've heard most of these things sort of through other people about his experience, but it's definitely made me appreciate Latvia being a place where I can be relatively free.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Yeah, so like I can relate to it because my mother was born in Uruguay in a German immigrant family, and she came back to Germany when she was like 12 or so, I think. And for her it was a very hard time to adjust to this new environment. And because before she talked Spanish in school, and then she it was in the 60s when they came back to Germany, and nobody talked Spanish at all here, of course. And so I've kind of some similarities there, so I can relate to that. Very interesting. And what about your church? Like before this little corner, you didn't go to church at all, probably?
No, I did sort of.
Okay.
So yeah, my father was probably the main, let's say, religious driver in our family. And then when he died, then that kind of fell apart a little bit. I'm the eldest son. And at some point when I don't remember how old, I think I was like 12 or 13, I started like going to church myself. Even like we didn't go that much before, so I definitely didn't feel like an insider at any point. But yeah, somehow I think God told me, like God showed me that in some ways like deconstruction doesn't work, and that like yeah, so I just kept going. And then I was sort of involved. No, I was involved in like a youth group during my high school years. Then when I moved to the UK, then, well, it was a huge shock, obviously, because the churches in the UK are totally different. And then COVID hit in because I moved to the UK in 2019, and then COVID started in 2020, I think. And then those years were just, you know, like there wasn't any church really. And I think last year of uni, I did kind of go to a church, but I was just a bit of an observer because I knew that I wasn't going to stay. But moving back, it's been, yeah, I've been a lot more deliberate about it. I think I've barely skipped any services. I sometimes go twice a week. I've been involved in I don't know how popular it is other places, but it's called Alpha Course. It's an evangelization kind of project that churches can pick up.
I also like
gotten to know people.
I think it was in maybe 2019, like so after some months after the biblical series, I also attended an Alpha course, so I know what it is.
Yeah, so I've definitely approached it more deliberately and from a completely different perspective, and it's really interesting because it's a Lutheran church, but it feels alive. It's not, in some ways, like I don't want to. I don't know if this is snitching or anything, but like, you know, we have icons around, you know, just like they're real icons, but we just have them, you know. It's like, should we have them? Maybe, I guess. And you know, our head pastor, we have 3 pastors. Our head pastor, you know, he's had an experience of like, how do you put this? An experience of Mary, and like a big kind of healing happened to him and his family, which is a massive experience. And, you know, again, in a Lutheran church, like my experiences with most Lutheran kind of churches is that there's a big hang up on like the historical kind of where the church came from, and a big opposition to Catholics, just kind of, they're born with it, sort of. But yeah, the Latvian church also has gone through different periods, and the Soviet times, it was just not really connected to anywhere else. So it feels young. It feels young and vibrant and alive, and it's going places, I think. I don't know what it's like in Germany. I've never really been to Germany, so I'm excited about that as well.
You mean church-wise in Germany, how it's going? Yeah. Well, it doesn't, probably not as something like you described. Well, I mean, it depends, of course. So I'm attending. I kind of returned to my roots. I'm attending a Mennonite church, and I'm not as good as you, so I'm not there every week, but regularly. And yeah, so my church, it's a small church, but it's a living and vibrant church. We also have a lot of kids, a lot of families, but usually in the Protestant and Catholic state churches, it's something different. I mean, it depends on the region, but most of the time, not something as you described. I mean, along the fact that you have three pastors tells something.
Yeah, it's definitely special, and you know, I could go on and on. It's like so interesting, really, especially in the light of this corona and everything that's going on. It's just there's a lot to appreciate. But like really special stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, we texted before, and you said like I asked you, do you have anybody to talk to this little corner topics? That's not the case, right?
Not really. I have a couple of friends who watch. I mean, all my male friends have watched Peterson. Like, I think without exception. Many of them went to see Peterson in Tallinn when he was there for a talk. You know, Peterson is a complete kind of cultural, like, unifying thing in my generation, completely. But outside of Peterson, not really. A couple of friends that I met in church are sort of interested, but I've you know, I feel like I'm in deep, so it's kind of hard to talk about it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, outside of our estuary, I don't have any people to talk to. Okay, my roommate Georg, he's a theologian, so. But
yeah, and I mean, like we meet once a month here in Mannheim, right? And it's mostly like 6 to 8, 9, 10 people. And yeah, I mean, it's it's what Klaus described before. It's like for me, it was very important to, yeah, because the online thing is one thing, and you can do that for a time, but for me, it wasn't sustainable over time. You know, I'm a family father, I'm a husband, and yeah, I think you have to integrate those things at some point at least, because otherwise it's not sustainable in the long run. Yeah.
What I find interesting in the estuary thing is you notice everybody struggles with similar things. I don't know, like meaning. I don't. Sorry, lost my thought.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, meaning is of course for a lot of people one reason why they came here.
Mm.
I mean, Peterson's maps of meaning, John Vervaeke's Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. It's a topic, definitely.
I didn't only mean the spiritual things, but the everyday problems. Everybody has kind of the same problems, and it's really nice to like speak to each other about it. And like I really appreciate that we are not just in our generation. We have older people as well. Like nowadays, the last 2 meetings or so, where 2 pastors are attending. So this was a really nice experience.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like we later before we said that like you don't find those places very often where you can just openly speak your mind and have a very openness towards different perspectives. And I think, yeah, I also think that's what people are missing and are finding in those estuary groups, because you don't have it these days. Like, yeah, and I, for me, it was the feeling like, okay, I didn't have it before, and I didn't feel that I needed it. But when I encountered Paul van der Klee and like these online meetings where you can talk about almost any topic that's on your mind, I really had the feeling, okay, I needed this before, and now I have it, but I didn't know it, you know. And I think that's the case for a lot of people.
Do you ever get the feeling that like when we read history books of things that happened hundreds of years ago, sort of the reasons things happened seem like quite transparent? That like, oh yeah, people started behaving this way, and then this happened, and they didn't have this, and so on. And
yeah.
I just sometimes wonder about what people will think about our age in a couple hundred years. You know, like what were the obvious things? And maybe we already know what the obvious kind of problems are. You know, people are struggling with meaning and all that, but like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you just need to take some time and really think about it. I don't know. To open yourself for it.
I think Peugeot helps a lot in this regard. Like did you read The Language of Creation by Mathieu Peugeot?
Yeah, I have it like right over there. Yeah.
It's really have to understand like everything from a top-down perspective.
All right. I don't know. Do you have any questions for what you heard or about the festival? I don't know. We have the schedule in kind of a rough draft. It will be published soon. But do you have any questions for one of this round or for me?
No.
All right. Gustav is still thinking, right?
No, I'm just, yeah, I'm very excited about it, obviously. Like excited, nervous, everything. You know, it's my first real life thingy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also excited to meet you guys in Mannheim at the festival, and yeah, I think it will be good. Yeah, last year was already very good start, and I think, yeah, it will just get better. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you, and thanks for this call, and see you in Mannheim. I will end this recording.
See you.
Thanks for hosting.
You're welcome.